Hi, everybody. I'm with Matt again. We're just talking about the Open to Work podcast. So, Matt, tell us all about it. What's it? What's it about? Who's it for?
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So the Open to Work podcast is really there to be a source of truth for people navigating this very challenging job market from the perspective of two very experienced recruiters. So I partner with James Hudson, who is the former VP of recruiting at Nike and has an awesome track record working for big corporates and in the US, as well as Net-a-Porter and startups in the UK. And so we feel like in this world where there's so much noise out there and there's so many perspectives from people who aren't necessarily experts in the job search environment and the recruiting environment, that having this kind of clear and clean voice from people who've been there, done that, they've literally got the t-shirt, is really valuable to help people, invest their time effectively and find their next job, hopefully.
Okay, sounds like a great community service. Tell us about just an overall summary of what's your experience been like?
Yeah, I mean, so it won't shock anyone, I think, to hear that my experience has been pretty poor. I think that there's a couple of different reasons, but I do also believe that hiring a director of recruiting or a head of recruiting, i.e., someone who's going to be coming in and probably running the entire recruiting function, is one of the hardest roles to hire for in a business, because it sits in between. There's no version of you in the company guiding a business on how to hire well, because that's why they're looking for you. And so often that means you're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place on who manages the process and what are they looking for. And I also think we've gone through a transition over the past 12 months of people who don't really know what TA is adding as value into the industry right now, like, and what does good TA look like and what do people want. And so this has resulted in a couple of like relatively shoddy processes, either run directly by like a founder or a CPO who doesn't, who are not necessarily that great at running recruiting themselves, or from recruiters who interviewing me and running me through a process as their future boss, which I also think that kind of power imbalance is a bit of a challenge, because they might not necessarily know what they're looking for in their role. What this is all to say is that my experience has been quite poor, and unfortunately, I'm still not in a job. But how do I walk away from this, and how do I kind of take away my experience from this? Is that um, I've learned a lot about being a candidate and the value of being a candidate as a recruiting leader. And I do believe that almost every recruiter at some point should take a time away from their job to apply for jobs full time and just see the experience they're getting, because we owe it to other humans around the world to provide a angst-free, a reduced angst experience. And waiting weeks at a time in between interview stages or in between decision making stages is an awful way to live, because that job search lives rent free in your mind, and it's so hard to put it down, especially when you've got bills to pay, especially when you've got a future that you're trying to plan for. It's always there. And I think that we as recruiting leaders need to be super respectful that that is the experience that our candidates are going through. And I think, having been a candidate, I think I now emotionally relate to that experience much better than I have done in potentially in the past. I think it will make me a better recruiting leader.
I really believe that, I really believe that there's no difference between recruitment and sales and marketing in terms of the psychological steps that the people are going through and the experience that people are going through when they're buying something. And um, there's a phrase in sales which is like time kills all deals.
Deals or deals. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
It's like the cadence of communication during the recruitment process and a certain amount of velocity, I think, is really, really important. And I think that you've probably experienced um like big gaps between communication. Has that been what's been happening this year?
I mean, I think it's that has happened, as well as, I've been through processes that have been very, very quick as well. But I think recently, especially in 2024, I've been going through processes that are extraordinarily slow, because I think people are struggling to make decisions on how they want to hire this role and what they think good looks like in this role. And also they're struggling to get sign off. And so they're going through the ringer a few times, and it's being, blah, blah, blah. So I think, time does kill all deals. And I've been in a company progress for maybe 4 weeks now, and I'm only at interview 2, and I've got another company that's biting on its heels that's probably going to go through the entire process in a couple of weeks, and they may lose out. And the reality is that good talent, when the market is where, we'll still have multiple choices. And so you do have to respect that speed and time to hire, especially as in the recruiting world, is an important factor in acquiring the right talent for your business. um, Especially, it's the pace of the process, not necessarily how long it takes you to find the right candidate, because I think it's the quality of the candidate in the top of the funnel is a limiter. But once you have that candidate and once you started that process, make sure you can do it in under 2 weeks.
Right, great advice there. Okay, Matt, thanks very much.
Cheers.